So, I don't know if you know this, but my friend Micah, who you should all go follow by the way, seriously, did you not learn anything from the last video? Posted a video about his top 15 movies of all time. And I thought, hey, I like movies. I have a top 50 list. I could do a video about my 15 favorite movies of all time. But I'm better than him, so I'm gonna throw in 5 more movies and make a top 20 list because I'm just that special. Enjoy.
Your story may not have such a happy beginning, but that doesn't make you who you are. It is the rest of your story.
In the number 20 spot, I have Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I know this might be kind of low for some people, but this is a really tight list, so it's fine. I still love it. I don't really feel like I have to justify this spot. I mean, it's pretty much regarded as the best animated movie of all time. I'm not sure I'd sing its praises that much, but that's not because the movie has any real problems. Okay, well, maybe this one scene where they're all testing Miles is really dumb, but whatever. I mean, the only parts of the story that were boring were the nothing, and the only jokes that didn't land for me were the jokes with Peter Porker. It's an incredible movie, everyone knows it, and if you want more information, watch my Spider-Man ranking from way back when. I feel like even though a lot of people obviously love The Truman Show, we don't really talk about it enough. This movie is the ultimate concept. Everyone has that little voice in their head that tells them that people are watching them whenever they do anything, so this is just genius. Of course, a good concept can only carry a movie so far, but this movie answers so many logical questions that it becomes impossible not to love. I love how everyone has their cues so that Truman isn't suspicious when he's watched. I love the brand integration that's so awkward and forced but also so necessary. I love the beginning of the movie where the actors admit that the Truman Show has become the regular world. Beyond that, the questions this movie asks are just fascinating. Is it morally right to keep someone safe in order to create jobs and give thousands of people the chance to be television stars? Is it fair to cancel a show when it's this successful? How do you convince Truman to do the things you want him to do? When he falls in love with someone he isn't supposed to, how do you stop him? How do you control someone who's trying to bring down the entire operation? And of course, the acting in this film is absolutely incredible. Laura Linney is obviously great as this crazed character that doesn't know what to do when Truman starts piecing everything together. She really sells some of the more tense scenes, especially the one where Truman wonders who she's talking to whenever she randomly describes a name brand product. Honestly though, it's Jim Carrey who steals the show. I mean, this is basically the movie that convinced me that he's way more than just a funny guy. His performance, especially at the end, is one of my favorites ever. Okay, I get that a lot of people don't like Lady Bird because it's too religious and because she can sometimes be a brat. And I understand there's a lot of characters that could be cut down in order to make the script a little tighter. But to me, this is the perfect teen story. I've talked about it before, but the opening scene of this movie is so good at immediately strapping you into the adventure you're about to go on. And the story never dips. Kind of like The Boys, actually.
Also, don't tell anyone, but I'm watching The Boys and I actually really love it. It's like surprisingly amazing.
It's just a really well-written snippet of what a high school or senior year is like. What becomes more important to her, what becomes less. Her boyfriend experience, her job experience, applying to colleges. It's just really interesting. Even though I have no personal experience with being a senior, I loved watching this movie anyway because her struggles felt so personal and real. I think a lot of that has to do with the character of Lady Bird. She's mostly an insecure teenager who doesn't really know how to make the right decisions most of the time, but you can tell she's trying. I think that everyone has struggled with the idea that you have to be popular and that your family frustrates you, and that's focused a lot here. Lady Bird is also played expertly by Saoirse Ronan. She's really good at delivering teen angst without it feeling like she has no emotion. I fell in love with the character, and the writing kept me so entertained that I had no choice but to love it. The Prince of Egypt is finally getting the respect it deserves as perhaps the best DreamWorks movie of all time. But I don't think it's quite there for me. Yeah, even though this is obviously an incredible movie, I've always had a problem with its ending. I just feel like for how climactic When You Believe is, the final climax kinda comes out of nowhere. I almost wish that When You Believe could have been placed after Moses splits the sea. Because as is, I just don't love the last 10 minutes of this movie. It also makes Ramses kind of a minor threat. But other than that, this is an incredible musical. Moses himself isn't the most compelling character, but his brother Ramses is portrayed excellently. His betrayal is so genuine because you can feel the heartbreak in Ramses' heart when he realizes that Moses wants to be free of his slaves, thereby crumbling the dynasty. He's not necessarily a bad person, just a victim of his situation. What ensues are a ton of battles between two brothers that are both intense and heartbreaking, especially because we know how much they cared for each other. Truly excellent. Kung Fu Panda is a hilarious movie with amazing drama with Shifu, a great villain, and really excellent philosophies on how to teach people. The second one, on the other hand, is more dramatic, more intense, and has one hell of an amazing score. But the real reason that I like this movie more than the original, and quite frankly every other DreamWorks movie ever made, is its message on healing your past. I'm gonna leave it pretty brief here because I think I can make a completely separate video on just this topic. But the general takeaway is that your scars are a part of you, and you can't change that. The only thing that you can change is who you are. I also think this movie is just generally really misunderstood. I mean, take a look at the official Letterboxd logo for this movie. It's the Furious 5. I mean, it's not bad, but why don't you just put any of the other dramatic moments? Like, how about the best scene in DreamWorks history? Plus, this movie is Poe's story, not Shifu's. That makes it a bit stronger narratively. Although a lot of people love Baby Driver, I feel like not enough people talk about it. It's never described as one of the best action movies, which is weird because I think it most definitely is. The editing in this movie is unlike anything I've ever seen, and it makes me want to keep watching just because of it. But besides the mind-blowing action, there's a lot of discussion on what it means to take responsibility for your actions, and how good people can be coerced into doing bad things, and how finding that one person can bring out the best in you. It's really powerful. I know a lot of people don't like the ending, but I find it to be one of the most genius writing decisions of the film. I just love that Baby isn't running away because he realizes that it's more important to do the right thing. It's very mature.
No, I am your father.
The Incredibles is kind of part of the reason I was hesitant to make this video in the first place. I mean, what is there even left to say about this movie? It's incredible. I love it. I've already seen it so many times. It's like I just have nothing to say about it anymore. And I'm probably not gonna watch it ever again alone. But there's a reason I've watched it so many times to the point where I don't enjoy it that much anymore. I just watched The Lion King on my birthday, August 1st, and even though I've seen it a billion times, I couldn't keep my eyes off the screen. It's just the pinnacle of the Disney formula. The character arc that Simba goes through may just be the best in all of fiction. The music is vibrant and alive, the animation depicting all the wildlife is so colorful you can taste it, and the score is on another level. There's no Disney movie that comes close to topping this magnificent film, because no other movie that they've made is this concise. There's no side story about how Zazu and Mufasa met. There's no wasted time in the savannah. Every scene does exactly what it needs to do in the exact length that it needs to do it with no extra bits of dialogue that other Disney films might include. That just doesn't happen often. Okay, I know it seems like I placed Dune way too high compared to some of the other movies. I left off this list entirely, but I can't believe what a miracle this movie is. To me, this is The Lord of the Rings all over again. The acting is just as good, the cinematography is just as good, the writing is just as good. It's clear that a ton of work was put into the production of this movie, and it definitely paid off. I mean, the costumes, the setting, the dialogue, everything is so meticulously crafted. There's also very little that it left out of the original book. It's simply the most condensed version of the story. Really the best type of book to movie adaptation you could possibly ask for. And I cannot wait until the next one. Even if they fumble the narrative a bit, I just want to see what Denis Villeneuve has in store for every technical element of this movie. Now that I've finally seen Seven and Fight Club, it's become clear which David Fincher movie is the best. Obviously, it's The Social Network. I just can't overstate how much I enjoy this asshole finagle his way out of 2 lawsuits when he's obviously guilty of both, but you still root for him because he's just so smart about it. This is one of those films that feels like a roller coaster that just never ends. It simply takes you along for this wild ride with pretty perfect pacing somehow. And usually narratives that are this complicated fall flat in the pacing. The scenes towards the middle and end are obviously great, but I also love the opening where Mark is trying to hack Harvard after a breakup. It sort of humanizes him, and that's extremely important because this scene also portrays him as kind of a robot. Still really entertaining though. Even though Christopher Nolan has made amazing movies, I kind of feel like Memento flies under the radar just because of the Batman trilogy and Interstellar. I mean, those two are great, don't get me wrong, but to me, Memento is the best one that I've seen from him. I mean, The Dark Knight has amazing dialogue and Tenet is... But the gimmick in Memento is simply so fascinating that you can't take your eyes off the screen. It's pretty much impossible for me to be bored during this movie, because even if the story isn't the best, the gimmick is always entertaining. Some people say that they get bored during the black and white scenes that are playing in the past, but I personally think that they're just long enough to make you understand what's happening, yet still not so long that they bore you. And those scenes lead to probably one of the best twists in all of film. Absolutely brilliant, and I didn't predict it at all. I remember I was driving to a drive-in movie theater with my dad so we could see The Empire Strikes Back, and we were talking about our expectations. Generally, we both agreed that the movie wasn't going to be quite as good as we remembered it, because we were foolish. This movie doesn't just hold up as a good movie, it stands the test of time as perhaps the greatest Star Wars project to ever exist. I could talk about the magical space scenes contrasted with the slow training scenes on Dagobah, or the most iconic line in all of cinema, but I don't want to bore you guys with the details. To me at least, it's so clearly the best Star Wars movie. Nothing even comes particularly close. Speaking of standing the test of time, how exactly did 12 Angry Men manage to rise this high on my list? Yeah, it feels pretty weird to commend a movie that's just about a bunch of white men in one room, but it managed to capture my attention in a way that no movie from that decade ever had. If you don't like black and white movies, fair enough. But if you think that you'll like this movie even a little bit, you have got to see it. It's such an endearing character study, and the way it develops the theme of things aren't always as they seem is simply brilliant. This is one of the few movies on this list that basically no one dislikes.
There are no 2 words in the English language more harmful than good job.
Okay, even though Ratatouille has fallen a few places since I started making this, I think that's mostly because I'm exhausted by it. Ever since I made that long video on this movie, I've kind of been drained by it. Now when I see Ratatouille, my brain still tells me that it's a top 7 movie, but the magic is just gone. I don't feel anything when I see this movie anymore, and it's kind of sad. Still, I can't deny that the overall look of Paris is captured perfectly, and Linguini and Remy's character arcs are perfection. It's just that I'll be checking out literally every other movie on this list before I check out this one again. Still, go watch it. At first glance, The Sound of Music doesn't seem like anything special. At the end of the day, it's just about a nanny who teaches children how to have fun and warms the heart of the captain she's serving. Don't get me wrong, that doesn't sound like a bad movie, just nothing special. But anyone who truly knows this movie knows how to properly describe it. The Sound of Music is about a naive woman named Maria who can't seem to find her place in the world. Her kindness warms the heart of the children she cares for, and eventually the captain, who can't help but fall in love with her bubbly personality. Maria is one of the only characters on this list that seems to have a genuine warmth surrounding her at all times, one that she continues to spread throughout the movie. At number 5, I decided to put the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy. I know that most people like to separate them, but I just don't think that's possible. Oh, the first one must be the worst. Oh wait, the first one has so many iconic moments that gave me chills that definitely can't be. Oh, the second one must be the worst. Oh wait, no, the second one has Battle at Helm's Deep. Okay, then the third one must be... Oh wait, no, that's definitely not true. I mean, why do we need to rank things? Why can't I just say I love these movies and that's it? Wait. am I really gonna put La La Land at number 4? I know at this point my history with La La Land is infamous, but I just can't overstate how shocked I am that I love this movie this much. Even when I posted the original video, it was only at number 19. I've grown to love every single song. Every single scene brings me pure joy. Me and Sebastian's relationship is absolutely perfect. The acting is unreal. The dance choreography is amazing despite what my grandmother has to say. Every shot is magical. I just don't know what I could have been thinking when I first saw this movie. Even when I saw it after my video, on my 5th rewatch, there's things I didn't notice. Like how the characters look right into the camera when they're in La La Land, or how every song in order comes back at the end in the score, or just how colorfully mundane this movie can be. It's an absolute masterpiece, and the only reason I would change this placement is to put it higher. I'm not sure how I fell in love with this movie so quickly. Okay, yes, I understand that a lot of people love Perks of Being a Wallflower like I do, but again, this movie isn't that highly rated compared to some Scorsese or Fincher films. I'm just so grateful I got to watch it because this is one of the biggest surprises I've ever experienced while watching a movie. Charlie is just a kid lost in a world he doesn't understand, and I find that extremely interesting. There's so many little moments that warm my heart, like the great conversation with Sam, or the always fantastic breakup scene. It's scenes like that that remind me why I love film. Like Shawshank, Perks of Being a Wallflower is a human experience that I think anyone can enjoy, even though I know not everyone does. This is the best action movie of all time. I could talk about the insane twist scenes or all the amazing action, but I would rather talk about the script. The script of The Matrix is one of its most underrated aspects. Even though I love the initial fortune teller scene as much as the next guy, I think there's a lot more that are overlooked. Even just the first scene where Agent Smith says, "No, your men are already dead." It's just so badass and cool. Oh my god. I'd also like to draw attention to the sequel, Matrix Reloaded. That movie is so underrated, I think because the finale of the series was just so bad. Still, the second movie in this trilogy has probably my favorite scene in the franchise, that being the fortune teller scene. Again, like the one from the second movie, not the one from the first movie. I understand why people don't like it. I mean, it's not the most easy watch, but for me it works so well. The only reason it's not number 1 is because... Whiplash. Whiplash is number 1. This is the only movie on this list whose placement has not changed, and I probably will never change it, and there's one simple reason for that. Every second of this movie is entertaining. Unlike Memento or La La Land, or even 12 Angry Men, Whiplash doesn't need setup. A lot of the times those movies need to take time to develop their twists a bit more, or flesh out some characters, but there's really no need for that in Whiplash. Every scene has its purpose, every scene is entertaining, and I would watch all of it right now. What a ride. Wow, this list ended up being a lot longer than I was expecting, but whatever. Now you guys know that I clearly hate Schindler's List, The Dark Knight, Spirited Away, and Grave of the Fireflies because they aren't top 20 movies for me. Oh well.